I'm Dr. Joe Esposito, and welcome to our podcast, For the Health of It, episode 75. Remember to subscribe to our podcasts, and I'll help you naturally get well and stay well.
The information presented on this program is not intended to take the place of your personal physician's advice, and it is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Discuss this information with your own physician or healthcare provider to determine what is right for you.
Are you suffering needlessly? Dr. Joe can give you advice on how to naturally get well and stay well. Dr. Joe Esposito.
Hey folks, Dr. Joe Esposito here. So glad we could spend some time together. And all right, today you're going to be mad at me. Okay, in fact, before I came out, I was talking to one of my producers, and they said, "Oh, what are you talking about today?" I said, the side effects of soda. And he said, "Don't start. I don't want to hear it. La, 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 la." He started laughing at me. But I do want to talk about the side effects of soda. And it's going to cover a lot of things: soda, artificial sweeteners, sugars. And if you've listened to my shows before, you know I talk about what's called the 7 deadly sins. The 7 deadly sins of nutrition are, say them with me if you're a regular: alcohol, meat, sugar, dairy, coffee, soda, and artificial sweetener. Now, if you're a new listener, what you just said to yourself was, "But that's my whole diet. Dr. Joe, I eat nothing but alcohol, meat, sugar, dairy, coffee, soda, and artificial sweetener. How can I give those up? I'll starve to death." The answer is no, you won't. Because the nice part is there's 120,000 foods that you can eat, and that's an estimate. So there's plenty of good food you can eat. You're not going to starve, I promise you. But soda's a biggie because I'm blown away how many people drink soda every day. And there's regular soda, and there's diet soda, there's caramel-colored soda, and there's stevia-sweetened soda. That's a good one, by the way. I'll give you a little inside scoop there. Stevia-sweetened soda is okay. I don't have a problem doing that. But I do want to talk about soda and sugars and what it's doing to your body. So if you're not a soda drinker, keep listening because we're going to cover a lot of things that are going to affect you as well. It causes the body to lay down fat in weird places. Bad news from the soda industry. Danish researchers discovered drinking non-diet sodas dramatically increases fat buildup in your liver and in your skeletal muscles. So we have fat cells, and the fat cells are there to store energy. That's what fat is. It's just stored energy. And it's kind of funny because years ago, I have several degrees in nutrition, and we were taught it was called calories. Remember that word? It's not the word we use anymore in the biz. It's called energy. Well, no, I don't like that word. I'm going to call it calories. I'm not going to bow to that because basically we're trying to make it try to soften it up, sugarcoat it, so to speak. It's still calories. If you're using the sugar, it's causing the fat to form in weird places. And so you can kind of see we have a beer belly, it's called. Well, what that is, there's a layer of fat called the omentum, the greater and lesser omentum. And it's if you dissect out a body, if you cut somebody open, you got this sheet. If you hold it up, it kind of looks like this sheet with these little bumps in it. These are fat cells. And that's what causes the beer belly. But soda causes it to settle in other places, and this is why. Sugar, high concentrations of sugar are utilized, well, sugar is utilized for fuel, but there's different types of sugar. This is where a lot of people get confused. There's fructose, glucose, maltose, galactose, lactose. There's anything with OSE on the end, like glucose, fructose, is a sugar. So anything with OSE is going to be a sugar, but the thing is that the body uses glucose as its primary fuel. The cells can utilize glucose. So you eat sugar. Let's assume we're eating pure glucose, which is kind of hard to do, but you're eating pure glucose. The brain sends a message to the pancreas and says, pay attention, we have sugar in the blood and we have to utilize it. We have to get it out of the system because if sugar builds up in the blood, sugar is slightly acidic. And the blood has to be right around 7, it's called a pH, levels of acid. And so if you're at a 7, you're in good shape. If you start going lower than that, more into the acidic range, 6 or 5, I know lower is more acidic. To me, in my mind, higher would be bad. Here, lower is bad. So if you start going to the acidic range, the body has to buffer itself. So the body uses minerals like calcium to neutralize the acid in your body. So this is why if you have a high acid diet, again, alcohol, meat, sugar, dairy, coffee, soda, and artificial sweetener, your body is utilizing calcium and other minerals to neutralize the acid. Very dangerous because now you lose your bone mass. What do we call that when you lose calcium in your bones? Osteoporosis. So osteoporosis, what I found in my research is that it's not always just an aging process. It's a high-acid diet process. And so if you go on a low-acid diet, more fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds, what happens is your body is able to, you don't have as much acid, and your body's restore the bone mass. So Too much sugar is an acid. The body has to neutralize the acid. So sugar gets into the blood. The brain says, hey, we got to get this sugar out of the blood as quickly as possible to maintain that acid level in the blood. The body releases insulin from your pancreas, which is on your left-hand side. So the pancreas releases insulin. Insulin goes out into the cells, and insulin acts like a key. It goes into the cell, and it opens up the cell so that it can receive the glucose. So the cell opens up, the glucose is used, and the insulin has done its job. If you eat too much sugar, the body produces too much insulin. And so insulin is trying to get these cells to open up, and they can't take any more sugar in. It's going to gunk up the works. So what happens then is the cells say, I can't let you open me up and allow sugar in because it's going to gunk up the works. I'm going to resist you, insulin, from opening up my lock, so to speak, and letting sugar in. And that's why we call it insulin resistance. What's another word for insulin resistance? Say it with me. Type 2 diabetes. Exactly. So type 1 diabetes is the pancreas isn't producing insulin. And in cases like that, you need to take insulin from an outside source. Type 2 diabetes, you have too much insulin. So I don't like the fact they're both called diabetes. It's very confusing to people. So with type 1 diabetes, different story altogether. We're talking today about type 2 diabetes. So you got to cut down your sugar intake. And so what happens is the body can only utilize so much sugar. It takes the sugar, sends it to the liver, if it's excess, and it gets stored as glycogen. Glycogen is a reserve tank of sugar. So you use up all the glucose in your blood, you still need a reserve tank so you don't just fall over and die. You have glycogen. Once all the glycogen stores are used up, what do? We convert that sugar into triglycerides where it gets stored as fat. So when you're eating a lot of sugar, the body has to store this fat, these triglycerides somewhere, and it stores it everywhere it possibly can. In your usual fat places, your belly, your butt, your hips, but it can also get into the muscles as well. It gets into the liver, of course. And if the liver gets fatty, you have a problem. When I went to school a couple hundred years ago, we were taught that fatty liver is always related to alcoholism. This is what it is. We were wrong. Fatty liver is now, they have something called non-alcoholic fatty liver, and that comes from eating too much sugar. And if the liver gets fatty, it can't do its job. Now, the liver's job is to break down just about anything that comes into your body, detoxify it, neutralize toxins, and then send it out to wherever it has to go. If the liver gets fatty, it can't do its job. But here's the cool part about the liver. The liver is the fastest healing organ in the body. So the nice part is as soon as you start making dietary changes, the day you start making dietary changes is when the liver starts to heal. And we can remove up to 70% of your liver and donate it to somebody else, and your liver grows back. So it's the fastest healing organ in the body. So as soon as you stop abusing it, it starts to heal. So if you're doing a lot of sugar, it's going to lay down this fat, and that's a problem. Consumption led to 11% increase in cholesterol compared with people who drank other beverages like water. So it raised your cholesterol. Why? Because of the fatty liver and the triglycerides. And so just eating sugar can raise your cholesterol. You're thinking to yourself, but Dr. Joe, people say this all the time, I don't eat meat, or I eat very little meat or eggs, and I have high cholesterol. What should I do about it? 1 in 100 people have genetically high cholesterol. 99 out of 100, you did it to yourself. And so by doing some dietary changes, simple dietary changes, we take the stress off the liver. And step number 1 is going to be cutting out the sugar. And soda is such a super high concentration of sugar, that's where it becomes a problem. So cutting out the sugar is a real simple, easy thing to do when you start with soda. So if you want to do soda, I'm going to give you a tease here. I'm going to just basically cut to the chase. There's good sodas. And you can do soda sweetened with stevia, sweetened with Lohan. You may have never heard of that one before. But these are natural sweeteners. They're not synthetic, and they don't have an effect on the body. And in fact, stevia has about 70 different nutrients in it. Now, it's not a supplement. Don't say I'm going to take stevia and I'm going to get healthy. It's not like taking Dr. Joe's Super Greens or Dr. Joe's Essential Source, but it's not as bad as sugar. What's worse than sugar? High fructose corn syrup. And then what's going to be worse than that? I'll talk about that in a second. So if you look at soda, in the United States, it's sweetened oftentimes with high fructose corn syrup. If you go to other countries, if you go to Latin America, if you go to Europe, they use something called sugar. Now, white sugar is 50% fructose, 50% glucose. So the glucose can be used as a fuel. The fructose has to be converted into glucose in order to be used as a fuel. That occurs in the liver. And if you do more than 20 grams of fructose a day, which is not a lot, the body produces a waste product called uric acid. Uric acid gets in your joints and it hurts. What disease is uric acid famous with? Say it with me, gout, right? Exactly. So people say you got to cut out the meat if you have gout, but nobody talks about cutting out the fructose, which is producing the uric acid. That becomes a problem. Uric acid prevents the body from producing something called nitric oxide. Nitric oxide opens up your blood vessels. It's a vasodilator. In fact, one of the supplements I have on my website, Dr. Joe's Nitric Oxide, it's extremely popular because as we get older, our blood vessels become weak and they don't expand and contract like they used to. So if the blood vessels become brittle and they don't open up like they should, it can raise the pressure in the body. And so Dr. Joe's Nitric Oxide is very popular because it helps the muscles start expanding and contracting again, which is pretty cool. But fructose converts into uric acid. Uric acid prevents nitric oxide production, and so you can't produce the nitric oxide. You can't open up your blood vessels. So a lot of people come to me, my team of doctors, I shouldn't say just me, and they have aches and pains. So, of course, from a chiropractic standpoint, we check for pinched nerves, neck pain, back pain, shoulder pain, numbness, tingling. Many times there's a bone out of place pinching a nerve, and chiropractically we put the bones back in place. Step one, patients start to feel better. Step two of their treatment is we continue treating them even though they're feeling better to stabilize the joint. If you drop out after phase one, chances are your problem's going to come back. You wasted your time and your money. So why not just get it done right? It's relatively quick and relatively inexpensive. But the uric acid, if we're doing the best chiropractic care in the world, and we're opening up nerve supply, and we're unpinching nerves, and we're putting fluid back into discs, and man, it's the greatest thing in the world. But you're sucking down fructose, creating uric acid gets into joints and it hurts. And so now what happens? You're not getting all the results that you want. And our goal, my team of doctors' goal, is to get you well and keep you well as quickly as possible. So you have to play. You got to help us out when you're a patient. So if you're doing a lot of sodas with the fructose in it, got a problem. So plain sugar is 50% fructose, 50% glucose. High fructose corn syrup is 55% fructose, 5% more fructose. And yet that little bit of fructose causes some real serious damage. And so in a lot of countries, as we said, in Latin America, Europe, they don't use high fructose corn syrup. They use sugar. And so if you go to a place like the World of Soda, we have one in Atlanta, you'll taste sodas from all over the world, same brand. But they taste different. Because different palates, different places around the world like things sweeter, less sweeter. Some countries won't allow fructose to be used because fructose is oftentimes made with genetically modified corn. That's what's called high fructose corn syrup. And many countries have banned genetically modified food. Yay for them. I support that 100%. And so they can't use the fructose. So they have to use sugar. And in fact, if you go to grocery stores around the world, 80% of the products that you see in the United States are not available in other countries. Now, the brand name might be, but the ingredients are different because they ban things like genetically modified food or high fructose corn syrup or certain pesticides. And so it may be the same brand, the same soda, with different ingredients. Pretty interesting. So sugar's bad, which is 50% fructose, 50% glucose. High fructose corn syrup is worse because it's 55% fructose, causing the liver to produce uric acid. Uric acid prevents nitric oxide production. And then there's something that came out a while ago called agave nectar. Now, if you're into health food, agave nectar hit the scene, and boy, it was popular. Oh my gosh, agave nectar is the greatest thing in the world. It doesn't spike your blood sugar. I can use agave nectar, and it tastes sweet, and it's awesome. Well, here's the problem with it. It doesn't spike your blood sugar because it's not a lot of fructose. Not a lot of glucose, I'm sorry. The glucose goes into the blood. So you're diabetic, you take your blood sugar, anybody takes their blood sugar and says, oh, I ate agave nectar, and it didn't spike my blood sugar. It's okay. Exact opposite. It's 85% fructose, and that fructose is now going into the liver, creating uric acid, preventing nitric oxide production, building up fatty liver in the body, and then it gets converted into glucose, so it spikes the blood sugar later. Not right away. You're thinking, well, it's okay. If it doesn't kill me right away, it must be okay. So I'm not a fan of high fructose corn syrup either. Sugar, bad. High fructose corn syrup, worse. Agave nectar, worser. Is that a word? More worse? So that's what's happening when you're eating the sugar in the soda or any type of sugar, what's happening, why it lays down fat in weird places. But you're thinking to yourself, but Dr. Joe, I don't drink regular soda. I drink diet soda. Diet soda is okay, right? It has no calories, so it must be okay. Study shown, Texas Health Science Institute. They found that those who drank more than 2 diet sodas a day saw a 500% increase in waist expansion. 500% increase in waist expansion by using something that has what? No calories. Isn't that crazy? A separate study, the same research is conducted on mice, suggested that aspartame, which raised blood glucose levels, that caused the weight gain, and when the liver encounters too much glucose, excess is converted into fat. So the artificial sweetener is actually raising your blood glucose levels. It's releasing it back into the blood, which then it gets converted through the whole process we just talked about. But here's the thing. That's not my main concern with artificial sweeteners. It's going to make you fatter. In most cases, that's what the studies show. So drinking it is insane. But there's 3 sweeteners, and we'll talk about aspartame. Aspartame is really important to discuss. Aspartame, when it gets into the body, breaks down to 3 components: aspartic acid, phenylalanine, and methyl esters. Again, don't worry about the chemistry. Aspartic acid is an excitotoxin. What that means, it causes the brain to fire faster than it's supposed to. Now, as a chiropractic team, we're always looking for ways to reduce pain, not increase pain. So if you're putting aspartic acid or glutamic acid, I did a whole show on glutamic acid a couple of weeks ago, and that shows on my website, drjoe.com, and on a podcast for the health of it, if you have a podcast service. When the aspartic acid gets into the body, it causes the nerves to fire faster than they're supposed to, and it can raise your pain level. So as a chiropractic team, one of the things my team does is we look at your diet and say, what else are you doing aside from having pinched nerves that are increasing your pain? So if you have neck pain, back pain, shoulder pain, numbness, tingling, car accident, you ever been in a car accident, ever? If the car was damaged, even a little, you were damaged. You're not tougher than steel. And so if you have these problems, many times it's a bone out of place pinching a nerve being aggravated by a bad diet. So if you have issues that you'd like to come see us in the Atlanta area, we have offices in Marietta, Duluth, and Stockbridge, we would love the opportunity to be your doctor. So if you want to make an appointment to come see us, go to my website, drjoe.com, drjoe.com, and you can book an appointment right online. If you have questions, insurance issues, whatever, call my office. My staff will handle it for you. And we want to get you well and keep you well. Now, if you're outside the Atlanta area, I know the show goes all over the country, all over the world, we could always do a phone consultation with you for nutrition, but all that's on the website, drjoe.com. Stop suffering needlessly. Come in, follow our recommendations, do what we say, and in major majority of cases, you're going to be thrilled. And you'll say, like all my other patients, so many other patients, why didn't I do this sooner? Why did I suffer so long? And again, I know you're worried about the pain, but we're worried about the pinched nerves affecting the organs. The pinched nerves also pinch blood vessels. It could be a blood supply. If the bones are out of place, they rub up against each other, they wear out. It's called arthritis. Arthritis is a mechanical problem. Bones are out of place, rubbing up against each other. So we want the opportunity to get you well and keep you well. So stop suffering. Go to my website, drjoe.com. We'll set you up a time to come see us right away. We can usually do it within 48 hours or sooner. So we're talking about soda today, the dangers of soda, and we got a little bit into aspartame. And aspartame is, like we said, it breaks down to aspartic acid, which is excitotoxin to the brain. Phenylalanine is also produced. Phenylalanine can affect your kidneys. If you have a condition called phenylketonuria, your kidneys can't process phenylalanine, and that becomes an issue. And that can kill you. So you really want to stay away from that stuff. So aspartic acid, excitotoxin to the brain, causes the nerves to fire faster than it's supposed to, can increase your pain levels. Phenylalanine can get in your kidneys and cause damage. And the other component is methyl esters. Methyl esters is methanol. Methanol is wood alcohol. And wood alcohol is a highly toxic poison. Now in nature, if you have methanol, you also have ethanol. And ethanol prevents you from absorbing the methanol. A little chemistry there. So yeah, tomato juice can have a lot of methanol in it, but it also has other things like ethanol to prevent you from absorbing these highly toxic poisons. When you separate out the methanol, found in aspartic acid, phenylalanine, methyl esters, that's when it could cause damage. And one of the places it's real obvious is it can attack the optic nerve. It can affect your eyes. And so a lot of people, when they come in to me, say, Dr. Joe, I notice my vision's getting worse. I'm seeing tunnel vision. Many times it's worse when you fly. Doc, when I fly, I got tunnel vision. It was really weird. Tunnel vision means you can only see like you're looking through a tunnel, little circle areas in front of you. And I asked him, did you have any diet soda on the plane? Well, yeah, I did, as a matter of fact. So you got to stop that. It's the bottom line. Methyl esters becomes methanol. Methanol is wood alcohol. It can affect your liver. It can affect your optic nerve. And methyl esters becomes methanol. Methanol breaks down into formaldehyde, which is what? An embalming fluid. Embalming fluid, you can't breathe it, you can't eat it, you can't ingest it. It's highly toxic. And yet you're getting very, very small amounts every time you use artificial sweetener. And then formaldehyde breaks down to formic acid, and formic acid is used as an ant poison. It's toxic to ants. It's toxic to humans as well. So artificial sweetener, not a good idea. And this one study shows a 500% increase in waist expansion by using artificial sweeteners. Why are you using artificial sweeteners to begin with? You're trying to lose weight, or you're diabetic. And if you're diabetic, this is very bad for you as well, because it spikes your blood sugar. It's insane. It just drives me insane. Now, some people say, well, Dr. Joe, okay, it's got some time here before the break. Dr. Joe, I use sucralose. I don't use aspartame, I use sucralose. Sucralose is a chlorinated hydrocarbon. What that means is we take sugar, plain old table sugar, remember 50% fructose, 50% glucose, and we do a 5-step process and we create something called a chlorinated hydrocarbon. Chlorinated hydrocarbons act like estrogen in your body. Last week I did a show on hormone disruption. So if you want to listen to those shows and thousands of other shows, go to my website, drjoe.com. Also, if you have a podcast service, it's called For the Health of It. So you can listen to the shows on my website. We have audio and video. Some people are visual learners, some people auditory learners. All that's available. And it's, guess what? It's free. It's my gift to you. And we did a whole show on hormone disrupting chemicals. So sucralose is a chlorinated hydrocarbon, which is an endocrine disruptor. It acts like estrogen, and estrogen can cause abnormal cell growth. And again, if you're done growing up, chances are you're going to start growing out. And this is why so many studies show that when you use artificial sweeteners, you gain weight. So sucralose is, not a better choice, in my opinion. It's just as bad for other reasons. So once again, you could use stevia. You could use Lohan if you have to have soda. And I know I've seen these things where you can buy a seltzer maker, which I think is great because you don't have to buy cans of seltzer and you don't waste cans and it's good for the environment. It's a whole lot cheaper. And so I have one. And you can make your own seltzer, but they have little sweeteners that you can add to it to make soda. And many of them have artificial sweeteners in it. So please be careful. If you're thinking you're doing a good job, you're not. If you want to make your own soda and you have your own seltzer maker, you can use a little bit of stevia, liquid or powder, and add some lemon juice to it, some lime juice to it. Those are perfectly fine. And this is the thing. This is what you got to understand about sugar and sodas. Once you start cutting back on it, do it for a couple of weeks. You'll go back and say, oh my gosh, this is so sweet, it's disgusting. Now, some people muscle through that phase and go right back into their sugar addiction, but I want you to consider not to do that. If something is disgusting and it's too sweet, don't eat it. That's the nice part. Caramel color, let me cover this before to go to break. Nonprofit Science for the Public Interest petitioned the Food and Drug Administration to ban artificial caramel color used in a lot of sodas. 2 contaminants in the color in the sodas are considered a color. The coloring is strictly for cosmetics. So it's the only reason we do it is to make the cola brown. It doesn't have any benefit to it. But they're now listed as possibly carcinogenic. Just 16 micrograms per person is enough to pose a cancer threat. So if you're drinking cola, and this is interesting because a lot of colas now come out with this novel cola, and it's clear. And it's kind of weird because you're used to drinking brown cola and you taste it and you go, wow, it tastes just like cola, but it's clear. My brain is not processing this. That's the color cola should be. When you add the caramel colors, it's a problem. So again, 16 micrograms per person per day can pose a cancer threat. Most colas, both regular and diet, contain 200 micrograms in a 20-ounce bottle. 16 is beginning a threat, 200 micrograms. So it's not just the sweetener now. It's also the caramel color. So please, if you're going to drink cola, you shouldn't, but if you do, make sure it's clear. And you're going to think that's novel and cool, but it really isn't. It's actually the way it should be. So I'm going to have to go to break pretty soon. If you're just tuning in, I'm Dr. Joe Esposito. We're talking about soda and the dangers of soda. And I have tons and tons of research here. I've gotten to half a page. Okay, so we've got lots more to talk about. If you're just tuning in and you want to catch the beginning of the show, go to my website, drjoe.com. We have well over 1,000 hours of podcast there. If you have a podcast service, look at For the Health of It. That's the title of my first book, by the way, Eating Right for the Health of It. And that's on my website, drjoe.com. My second book is called Prescription for Extreme Health. So the first book tells you how to change your diet, has a bunch of recipes in it. So it's really a good guide to get into the changing of the diet, the mechanics of it. Prescription for Extreme Health goes into everything. We go into the nervous system, digestive system, nutrition. We have a section on athletes in there. So it's really a great book. It reads real easily, too. I write the way I speak, so it's really easy to read. So if you want to do that, go to my website, drjoe.com. As far as supplements go, I didn't cover that a whole lot in this show yet, but the minimum amount of nutrients you should be taking every day is Dr. Joe's Super Greens and Dr. Joe's Essential Source. They're 2 powders. They taste great. That's the minimum you should be taking every day. In the wintertime, I do recommend you also take vitamin D, 5,000 international units a day. Dr. Joe's vitamin D is 5 drops. We have a bunch of other supplements. If you have any questions about the supplements, you can always send me your questions through the website, drjoe.com. If you want to make an appointment to come see us in the Atlanta area, we have offices in Marietta, Duluth, and Stockbridge. Neck pain, back pain, shoulder pain. Stop suffering. Make an appointment right now, drjoe.com. Folks, I'm Dr. Joe Esposito. Tell your friends about the show. We'll catch you next time. Thanks for listening to For the Health of It. Remember to subscribe to this podcast, and I'll help you naturally get well and stay well. You can also listen to and call into my radio show live Sunday evenings from 7 to 9 Eastern Time on WSBRadio.com and on the WSB Radio app.